Tim, you'd be probably the wealthiest person I know that I've got on a first name basis.
But, money just does not buy happiness at all.
Hey folks, this week on the Wealth Faculty, we're going to find out what it takes to become the best property developer in all of Queensland. 6 out of the last 7 years, these guys have won the best development, best building in the whole of Queensland and have gone on to win awards in the same category for the whole of Australia. Tim Forrester, Mike Hurley, the founders of the ARIA Property Group up in Brisbane, share with us this week their wisdom when it comes to creating an amazing company, creating an amazing vision that leaves a legacy for the future. They're throwing down the gauntlet to other developers in Australia and if not the world to create the best buildings in the world, some of the most amazing spaces and places to live. Their vision is, if not comparable to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, in saying we want to be the best, we want to build the best buildings, we want to be the best developer, and we want our owners who own our properties to have the best times. What does it take to be that person, to create that vision, create that wealth, bring that energy and excitement every day? Well, you're going to find out when you tune into this week's episode of The Wealth Faculty. Hope you enjoy.
Tim, Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jason.
Great to have you guys here. Yeah. Well, thanks for hosting me hosting you in your amazing display here.
No worries.
We're going to hang out tonight and do some stuff here for mentoring. But this afternoon, I'd love to sort of dive into the story of ARIA, you guys and your extended team. But my first sort of thing that I want to sort of kick off with, you guys have won 6 out of the last 7 years best development in Queensland.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever start out thinking, that's where we're going? We're going to be the best developer in Queensland. Where did it start? Because I have a little bit of an inkling of the story.
It's been
a journey for you guys.
A real journey. Yeah. I mean, obviously starting ARIA 17 years ago with Michael and also Brent, a couple of schoolmates.
So there's 3 of you in the team.
Yeah. Well, obviously, there's 40 of us now. But when we started, it was pretty humble beginnings. We started in a little storage shed in the city with no air conditioning and started off just trying to do little land deals and property deals. And then we started doing apartments that were 6 units, 8 units, 12 units, 20 units, 30, 60, 100, and the rest is history, so they say. It has been a real journey.
Yeah. And what about you, Mike, mate?
I think early on it was just some young blokes trying to make a dollar, really.
Give it a whirl.
Just trying to figure it all out and have a bit of fun along the way, but certainly where we are now today and where we started are poles apart. It was definitely a big evolution.
So you guys were at school together, so also Brent as well, the 3 of you?
Yep.
And, did you guys sit in the playground at lunchtime going, right, when we grow up, we're going to be developers? Well, was that the conversation? Or, how did it get there? Because, really, it could have went anywhere for all of you guys. How did it get to, let's get into business together and do something? What went on there?
Yeah, well, Brent and I were in the same grade. Mike was a year or 2 older than us. And then Mike and I ended up living together at university. So we sort of really became good mates then and shared an apartment together.
I know it's a podcast, but, I probably look a lot younger than Tim, but I'm actually a little older than Tim.
There we go.
He has got a few more grey hairs. I'm not sure if you can see that in through the podcast, but no, look, it actually, the 3 of us lived in an apartment together on Albert Street, Brent, Mike and I. So we've sort of had, really close, tight-knit, friendship. And I think that's been the success of ARIA is just the level of trust that we've had with each other. Knowing that every single day, whether it's Mike or Brent or myself or anyone, Dave Marsland, our CFO, was our first ever employee 17 years ago. He came on as a junior accountant and is now our CFO. So I think that culture of sort of loyalty and trust and integrity, and it's really laid the framework for the ARIA business to be able to do some amazing things.
Yeah, really at the end of the day, 17 years in business, not many businesses get that far in the world. I think I was looking at a statistic the other day. It was like 10% of 1% get past 15 years in the whole world. And, I was waving my flag because PRE is there at 18 as well. You guys are 17.
Same year,
So, an amazing achievement, and to then be winning awards and those sorts of things from really where you guys sort of, hanging out, living together, not really knowing what you wanted to do. It could have been quite easy for you to follow in your father's footsteps. So, so what was that kind of, energy and sort of oversight like for you? I don't know if that's the right word, oversight, but was that an expectation for you, or like across the friendship, or like in that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously had a father who was in property development and construction.
Yeah.
And, he's just not only a best friend for me, but just an amazing mentor my whole life. But he taught me, I think, growing up, every Saturday we'd always be driving around looking at the new house he was building, or looking at townhouses or a small block of apartments. So I think for me it was really in the blood, and I don't know about for
in the
Mike
DNA.
as well.
Yeah, what about you, Mike?
I remember being at school, and my careers guidance counsellors, trying to tell you where you'd go. And at the time I was a bit of a naughty school student, so I wasn't really getting top marks. But I remember looking around at all my friends' parents that were most successful at our school, and they were all in property. So I just said, well, I want to do that, because literally all my friends' parents that really had become, very successful in the Sunshine Coast were in property development. I just had a real love affair for property, because it was, to me, quite simple, monopoly. Buy your little house and then trade up.
I was
and
playing
get the
Monopoly
big
with
red
my
house.
son on the weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great. Did you play it when you were younger as well?
I think he beat me, actually. So, but I remember growing up playing a lot of Monopoly, and just as Mike said, great simple principles. And I think it's the key to property is keeping it simple a lot of the times as well. You can try and overcomplicate it a little bit. So it's just get good advice, invest in the right areas, and play the long game. It's not an overnight story, property. It is about riding the cycles and waiting for markets to move as well, which they always do at different times.
What do they say? The get rich quick overnight success started 18, 17 years ago.
Exactly.
You don't get to win awards in 5 minutes flat with no matter what you're doing in this life. But mate, and what about your family? Just quickly for your background,
Look, my dad was in the body corporate management industry, so he was tied really closely to property, and he's sort of done a lot of our buildings forever. So Dad was on a different side of it, but I just once again look back at really successful people, and they were all on the Sunshine Coast, at least in Brisbane, in the property development industry. And my dad just taught me hard work, and be honest and ethical, and you only get one name, and do the right thing. So they were pretty simple principles to sort of live by.
It was destined to be, really. You blokes had property in the veins. It was pumping through the body.
We shared a few other interests as well, but property was one of them. We certainly didn't mind having a bit of fun as well.
Have a bit of fun. Well, I was going to sort of roll into that one. Like it started out as best friends, and including Brent, I'm sure. You guys, grew up at school. What sort of stuff did you get up at school? Were you into the sport? Did you cause a bit of trouble? Were you sort of straighty 180 at school? Were you A students?
I think both of us, had a real competitive streak in our body, and I think we still do in absolutely everything we do. So I know personally, I was just in love with anything that was competitive. So sports, I think we played AFL, rugby, cricket, tennis, golf. We both loved to be in the ocean all the time. Mike did a lot of surf life saving as well.
Yeah.
So it was just anything where you could get out and really give it a crack was what, I love doing. I'm sure Mike was similar.
Yeah, no, exactly the same, and definitely not a straight A student. But I remember that I would annoy all the teachers pretty much, and still do it today. I just ask the question, why? Someone would tell me something and I go, why? And still to this day, when, the city council tells us we can't do something, I say why, or Queensland Rail, I say why. And then eventually you get the outcome you want, because people just are used to thinking things are hard or telling you can't.
I don't think you can ever change the world or change the marketplace if you don't ask why. I think everything starts with that question of why is that? And that's what we're really trying to do with our buildings, change it up. We don't want to just create conventional apartment buildings. We want to try and push the envelope, and we want to create buildings that we're going to be really, really proud of.
Yeah, I think you guys are certainly well down that pathway, and I think you're only getting started in my world. Like, you guys are charging along there amazingly. But when did you sort of decide, all right, well, let's get into partnership, good friends hanging out, living together, I remember...
I can sort of answer that. It was more so Tim wanted to start his own company, and it just so happened that, you know, as two mates that happened to be living in the same apartment, it was sort of like, you know, hey, do you guys want to come with me? And we're like, sure. So,
well, I think the only people when you're starting a business you can get to work for you are people that will work for nothing.
Yes.
So they'll work for free, work for the love. And that's, I mean, both Mike and Brent, when I reflect on it, pretty unbelievable to think. I mean, I think for the first 2 years, Mike basically didn't earn a dollar. Brent was the same. You know, it was just basically living sort of, you know, very, very frugally and just trying to get by. I think we had a lot of noodles. We used to go to the Jackpot Noodles where you get the little $4 noodle basket every night. But it was just getting through and trying to survive. And then we got the first deal that sort of came through. And
was that the one where you guys were sitting in the commercial property with no air conditioning in your undies? I remember you guys talking to me about. Yeah.
Well, it was so hot. You had to sort of. You couldn't wear work clothes, so we'd just have to wear our boxer shorts and be sweating. And then if someone would come to the door, you need to get changed, and it was quite an event. But I mean, they're the days that you remember so fondly. And I remember those first couple of deals that we did. Yeah, they were probably the most fulfilling deals that you will ever do. And for me, I just feel so fortunate to have, you know, mates, when you reflect on it, that would literally work for nothing on a promise, on a dream, on, hey, we can do this together, and everyone believed it, and we sort of never really wavered on that. And right now we openly say, you know, we want to create the best buildings in the world. We want to be one of the most sustainable developers in the world, and we want to bring that real environmental sustainability to our projects, and we're kind of not going to let anything stand in our way. We're going to continue to push and drive until we get there. I think that same determination was there from day one, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun along the way. And it's also like we're all really good mates. We shared the same philosophies and goals, and, you know, none of us were, you know, I remember very early on, because I also started early on in sales. I remember when I was 18, 19, I got an option of take a salary and a little bit of commission, or no salary and just go 100% commission. And in my mind, because I'm an eternal optimist and I always back myself, I'm like, hell no, I'll do 100% commission only, because I just back my ability to eventually get the deal done. So I've always taken that long-term approach rather than kind of have the safety net, so to speak. So I suppose I was a bit of a gambler personally early on.
Went for it. And it sounds like really at the end of the day, you guys bootstrapped it right from the start, and, you know, under your own steam, you know, created something that's pretty special. When did it become apparent that, okay, well, we've done some deals, you know, there was a couple of deals, you know, under the belt, and you say, well, let's build really good buildings. Like, how did that part come about for you guys? Was there a moment in time, or, you know, what really spurred that part?
Oh, I know for me that there sort of was. It had been a journey that had been building for a long time. Yeah. And we did a lot of work on Jim Collins's book, Good to Great. Yes. He sort of analysed what is it that makes good companies become great companies in the United States and all around the world. And that was all about having one thing that you honed in on, that you focused on, that you wanted to be the best in the world at. And for us at that point, we were doing commercial office, we were doing industrial, we were doing land, apartments, we were doing a bit of everything, and we were trying to be everything to everyone. And it was that moment, probably around, you know, that 2010, 2011, and we said we want to do just apartments, and we want to really, really strive to be the best apartment developer in the world. And that was our sort of whole goal from that point of view. And then with our apartments, I remember I always liked to walk buyers through our apartments, and we had a building in the early days that we did, and I walked through, and I just felt like I could tell that the client wasn't completely blown away with it, and I felt like we could have done better and made the apartments a bit bigger and produced a bit better amenity, and we still tried our heart out, but I just knew we could do better. And it was a real turning point where I said, I never want to have that feeling again. I want to really, really strive every single time we walk a mum and dad or an investor or an owner through any one of our apartments, which we like to personally do at the end of every building as well, with certain buyers. We want to make sure they are so incredibly proud of everything that they've bought. We want to make sure we are as well, and we've left nothing in the tank. And that's where the upgrade things come along, like buildings like, you know, Botanica and Oxley and all these buildings where we throw $3, $4, $5 million worth of upgrades at the building. Even though we've sold the whole building out, we're doing that because we want that to be the absolute best building it can be at settlement.
Yeah. And I certainly know that all of our buyers love that surprise at the end. I mean, the value that you add, and it comes out of your profit too. And one of the things that I've resonated with you guys, you add as much value as you can, and it's not the big money grab, build a rubbish box in the sky, and then move on. It's always been you talk about it, leaving a legacy that you're going to be proud to walk by in 20, 30, 40 years time with your family.
100%.
Where did that come from? Where's that grit come from? Because that's sort of, I do know, many people who kind of, I don't really trade on values or whatever. The dollar comes first. You reckon that?
Yeah, I think for me, and I can't obviously, and I think Mike and I've spoken about it enough to sort of answer. I mean, it's something bigger than profits and something bigger than projects. Like we really feel like, that legacy piece is something that's bigger than anything else. We've both got young families and nothing gives you more satisfaction than walking past these buildings or down Fish Lane or whatever it might be in 20, 30, 40 years time and feeling such a sense of pride and accomplishment and legacy with what we've created. And it's a really important piece for us that we never want to waver on. So sometimes you've got to forego some profits to create that. And I think a lot of people maybe struggle with that because, they might have pre-sold the whole building out and they don't need to. But for us, it's something that's a really, really important piece for us that drives us really. I mean, I think we can openly say we don't do what we do now just for the profit and projects and do another one and whatever. We do it because, we want that legacy with every project we deliver.
The best stuff. What about you, mate? Anything?
Look, I'd second that. And, back on the projects, I call it the sort of mum and dad family test. Would you sell or would you let your parents or your brother and sister buy in that building? Because if you don't do it right, you're going to hear about it for the rest of your life. So if you really look at it through those lens and go, personally for me, I keep a unit in every development we do. And I feel very comfortable when friends and family buy in there that my money's alongside them and that you've done the best you can. Now, looking back, we're always learning and evolving. So every building we hope is better than the last one. But, at that point in time, that was the best we could do. And we're very proud of that.
Yeah.
And same with me, Jason. I mean, every building, I think you create a building you're going to be proud of in 20 years or 30 years. But again, the difference is Mike's invested in there. And even for myself, I'm personally keeping 1 or 2 or 3 levels in every building as well now. So we're all invested in the value that we're creating and the legacy that we're creating. So we just look at every decision really, really fundamentally differently. It really is, well, you're going to be proud of that in 20 years. If not, don't do it. Let's do it properly and let's, so we're adding value to our own investments every time we do those things as well.
Yeah. And really now you guys are, pushing the envelope in your designs, I mean, the inspiration for these things must be, just amazing. Every time you're going next level, I remember I can't, if I had $1 for every time I said, "Oh, this one's next level," boys, every time you're doing it. But where do you get that inspiration from? I remember you guys said you've done some trips, but is it the junkets overseas? Is it?
Tell them about our trips.
Well, I'm going to try and keep a straight face, but it is a podcast. But I think you can probably tell. Look, we do go on a few research trips in parentheses, but seeing what the best people in the world are doing is really inspiring. And early on, I know, we never thought we'd be, the most awarded developer in Queensland or Australia, but early on we'd go to Sydney and Melbourne and see what some great developers interstate were doing. I remember we got some great ideas, but now we go to places like Singapore and sort of New York and Miami and, so we go to these places and see what
are they more enjoyable for your research?
I must admit it's really hard work to, go and get inspiration from restaurants and bars and hotels and buildings. But it's a byproduct. We have a lot of fun. But
is there a developer or someone around the world that inspires you guys? Have you ever sort of said, "Oh, gee, they do next level buildings"? One day.
I think we've definitely drawn, I think, a lot of inspiration off what Mirvac did in the early days. I think when Mirvac was really founded through the 1990s and early 2000s, and they delivered such an incredible product and brand. I think they really set the benchmark for apartment living. So we've always strived to, create buildings in line with that. And then globally, there's been some amazing buildings that we've seen in Miami and New York and even Singapore. Some of the stuff that Richard Hassel from WOHA's done in Singapore is just, it's changing the game. It's greening cities. And if we're serious about not just whinging about climate change, but actually doing something about it, then, as developers, we've got a responsibility. It can't just be concrete and glass forever that just makes cities hotter. You need to cool cities. You need to get rid of some of the carbon from all the carbon that's being created. We need to create oxygen. We need to start greening these cities. If we want to genuinely think about our kids' future and our kids' futures, it can't just keep going on with concrete and glass forever. So that's something that Richard Hassel's really inspired us a lot from WOHA, which is an architect. And it's been some great stuff.
There's some great ones in New York, Related Property Group. There's just a lot of, and it's funny, some developers might do one good one and a few average ones and another good one. So it's, sometimes architects we follow, sometimes some developers, and there's just lots of great
that inspiration bit's interesting. Like a bit of a difference with ARIA, we try and partner with the best creative minds in the world.
Because you guys run competitions, right?
Exactly.
To get the design.
So every building, we go to 4 architects now around Australia, and we get them, and they've all got, big personalities and really strong egos and what have you, and they're all competing to blow us away and create the best building they possibly can. So we get those 4 and we pay them all to actually come up with the design concept, and then we can pick the best design concept from that, and we get just some amazing ideas and some amazing inspiration from creative minds like Koichi Takata and they've been incredible to work with for us.
Incredible stuff. Well, I mean, one of the ones that you guys are talking about, I know you're managing the progress of the approvals and stuff, which is, Urban Forest, one of the ones, and we're going to talk about some others tonight. But I don't know if you guys have seen, this is sort of David Attenborough's Facebook, and there's 4,800 comments, 8,100 shares around the world about something like that. And what I love about what you guys are doing, you're putting your money where your mouth is when it comes to, all right, well, if our kids are going to have a future, we got to do our bit, right, for whatever we can do, with the planet and those sorts of things. And that's, a prime example of really sort of going next level.
I think that's a building that, we really believe that has the potential, that building, to basically change the world when it comes to apartment in a city development. That building has all the makings of something that we could look back on in 10, 20, 30, 40 years and say, this was the moment that the world changed in the property space. I mean, that's talking about reusing 100% of the grey water. So whenever you have a shower, whenever you brush your teeth, we capture that water. We treat that water. That's what gets used in the garden beds. We're going to use that to look to irrigate the park across the road for the community and the public. We're going to be using solar, using battery powered, working with Tesla to use the Tesla battery packs through there, building public parks. I mean, 1,000 trees, 20,000 plants, like that. This is game changing for the world. When we deliver this building, it's going to change the game. And I don't think development will ever look back once it goes to this level. The days of stuffy concrete boxes, they're gone. It's going to has a huge potential. So. And Mike's probably got a bit to add. He's pretty passionate. It's really been Mike's baby.
Mike's baby. He's championing it. I mean, in little old Brisbane too,
I just remember, like, even during COVID, we had sort of 3 or 4 big items in the building that we were quite far down the design process. And even during COVID, we decided to go even more all in and add a lot more features that we hadn't really contemplated, to sort of put even more into the building. And then we lodged it in, and it's a real game changer. There's so many different elements in the building, parks and green spines and lighting in the building and the common area and cross flow ventilation and backyards in the sky. It's going to be really cool. But
every apartment's got its own backyard, for example. So like you've got
hard to even comprehend to think about 40, it right now,
50 square metre backyard balcony.
That's
amazing. Gone are the days of the 10 metre balcony. You go out and you sit on or whatever. You've got a backyard. You've got trees. You've got planters. You've got, it's a game changer.
And we're very humbled by, getting sort of a shout out from, Mr. Mr. Attenborough on something like this to, obviously, as he calls it, let's rewild the planet.
Yeah.
He wants to see more trees and greenery and everything. So certainly, lets us know we're heading in the right direction.
Totally. Well, I think if you're putting a challenge out there to other developers to sort of step up, it's great for you guys. They're being chucking down the gauntlet.
But mate, let me tell you, it's not easy.
Yeah.
We're challenging everyone, not just developers.
That is not easy for us.
Yeah.
That building alone will have 3 full-time landscapers on the building to get everything wide where there's no way trees are going to fly out of the building. There's no way trees will die. There's no trees can get enough water in an environmentally sensitive way. There's so many complexities and so many things that we've had to work through.
6 different microclimates on the building alone. So we've got, not only the north, south, east, west, we've got, underneath, we've got up high in the winds, we've got some to get more sun, less sun. We've got 28 species of trees alone that'll just go on the outside. We'll have 250 plants all up. Some plants can use grey water. Some plants have to use rainwater. The different nutrient levels of the water. It's crazy. We've got some very smart people, and we've actually got 3 PhD students from Griffith University that are doing their thesis on the building alone. So one guy's just doing the planters on the side of the building. One student is doing air quality and how the dust and the air quality and the temperature of the trees on the building, how it's going to cool the environment. And then someone else is just doing it on grey water and water for the building. So it's pretty cool that literally Griffith reached out to us and said, hey, can we actually get 3 different PhD students to do thesis on your project, because we think this is game changing around the world. So it's pretty crazy the level of detail we're going to.
Yeah, well, maybe gone are the days of just chucking some bricks up and making sure you got the Rio in there.
Well, mate, I think as well,
you need the scientists as well.
As someone, we've done a lot of, different buildings, and you realise like the heat that gets generated from glass, reflecting on concrete, reflecting on bitumen. That's why the cities and the planet just gets hotter and hotter and hotter. So if we can actually cool the city through this, if we can get rid of the carbon, if we can create more oxygen, there's a lot of really, really good things.
But as usual, there's a lot of people telling us no, and we just say, why?
Keep pushing.
Well, and we think it is. We think it's bigger than just another building. We really do.
Well, I think the community support, is amazing. Just in the small circles we move in, it's loud and everyone wants to see it get up. So
it's interesting. I think we're up to about 250 calls just to our switchboard with people asking how they buy an apartment in there. So just random people that saw that ARIA is developing it and cold call us. So it just, the inquiry is going to be incredible. So people want to be a part of it.
They do. They want to be part of something special.
It's their way to help play a part in their kids' future.
Absolutely, adding some value. Well, talking about kids, you guys are family men. You've got a few more than
that's a competition.
But how do you guys? Listen, like you said, making something amazing is not a part-time gig. You guys, are flat out with this stuff. It's not, you don't go to work at 9 and come home at 3 or whatever it is. There's no knock-off time. Like, how do you guys balance your family life when it comes to this sort of thing? I'm assuming that your family is sort of in this journey with you, in this legacy with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, family's kind of everything. It's kind of priority number 1, 2, and 3 for me in my life. So I really do try and get that balance where, you don't miss anything with your kids. And I think the fact that we've gone really hard for the last 20 years, we're at a point now where maybe we don't need to work and go as hard as what we once did when you were starting your business. And as well, it's an important thing with ARIA. We never want to be the biggest developer in the country. We are so comfortable with doing 1 to 2 great buildings a year, and that's all we need to do. We're not interested in going to Sydney or Melbourne or Perth, or all these other developers want to go all around the country and all around the world and do all these amazing things. We think Brisbane's the best place, in Australia and for us to develop, and we only want to do amazing projects here. So it's getting that balance right. And the way you get around it for me is, you just need to start early. I was feeling pretty ordinary this morning because I had the footy weekend. So I had the grand final and we were out till quite late on Saturday. And then there's obviously the NRL function last night, watching the rugby final as well. But alarm goes off at 4:35 a.m. and just bang, up, in, train from 5 to 6, come home, get to be with your kids. So you've got to just got to try and work around it and make time for that. But I think for both of us, we never want to miss anything with our kids and our wife and our family.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? You're cracking on for 4, mate. I mean, Tim's like going back up for 5 or 6.
I've got 2, and I'm negotiating a third, but right now she's pretty tough to negotiate with. But something tells me she's just learnt off me. So she's playing a straight bat until hopefully she crumbles. But no, look, we'll talk about it later again, but when one of your passions and hobbies in life happens to be what you do for a living, it's kind of not hard. Like, I get to go to work every day with my best mates. I get to just create these crazy buildings with, our staff as an extension of our family. Our team are just all superstars. Like, everyone at ARIA is like 4 normal people that are a development company. So we've got all these talented people. We have fun all day. So it's not like, I've got this crap job and I get home and I'm stressed and I hate what I do. Like, I love it. So it's really easy.
Yeah.
And then, you just sort of balance that time, and it's all about priorities. I walk in the front door, my phone stays at the front door, and I'm all in with my kids. Like, I'm not showing them that my iPhone's more important than they are.
Yeah.
I'm all in with my kids. I'm just, I've learned that when you're doing something, do it 100%, whether it be family, work, training, whatever it is.
Podcast with Jason.
Podcast with Jason. Present right here. It's perfect.
And then I'm 100% when I sleep too. I'm out like a light within like 1 minute.
That's why he's only got 2 kids, because he doesn't get up with his life.
Tim hasn't slept for the last 4 years. Which is well, I mean, it brings me something, and you touched on it there before, and I get this question often. I would say, Tim, you'd be probably the wealthiest person I know that I've got on a first name basis. You're well up there, mate, way up there with your wealth creation too. And I get this question often. Well, if you've got all that money, why do you keep working then? And you just touched on it for me there, like
It's not work.
It's not work.
It's not a job at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what we always stress. We do a lot of work with the Smith family who help support a lot of disadvantaged families and kids and what have you. And we do like an ARIA Learning for Life program with them. We have 50, 60 kids in, and we always talk to them about it. They go, what's the secret? How do I, and we said, you got to love what you do. You just got to. If you have a real passion and you love what you do, you will work hard, you will excel, it's not turning up and having to grind out work every day. And I think that's how work has always been for us. We've always loved what we do. So it's never felt like work. And then you couple that with wanting to actually leave a legacy. I can tell you hands down, we do not do what we do for money. We do it because we love what we do and we want to leave a legacy with our projects for the next 20 to 50 years.
It's that why, huh?
That's our why.
Yeah.
That is yeah. And I love a lot of the work Simon's done as well, and that's exactly what it is for us. And we look at all the great guys. I mean, we get so inspired by obviously Steve Jobs and what he created, and Elon Musk and how he transformed the whole world in terms of electric vehicles and what have you. Like, there's no way Mercedes-Benz would be doing electric vehicles if it wasn't for Elon.
Yeah,
he was the pioneer, and we look at that and we say, if we can crack this sustainability piece, and we can crack like we did with the rooftop clubs and all of those things, it can change the game. And that's
is that a little
really
window into the driver there for you guys? Is that like ego aside, let's be like Elon and set the bar high, because it deserves to be set high, and those who fail well below that, should not. Really survive in the end. At the end of the day, the best of the best wins, right?
Yeah. I think it definitely is.
But you force other people, like you touched on rooftops then. When we started doing rooftops, no one was doing rooftops.
Yeah. It's never been done before 8 years ago.
If you try and sell development now and you don't have a rooftop with all these amenities, it's like, what do you mean? Like, no one's going to buy that now. So it's almost you have to do that to even get your project off the ground. How cool would it be in 10 years' time if you don't have a building covered in trees, if you don't have a park underneath it, if you don't have all these sustainability things?
Yeah, if you don't use grey water, it's like, I want my kids to
people
grow
aren't going to
up.
buy it.
Like when
They're gonna
Vince
go,
and
"What do you
Heidi
mean?"
are 18, 20 years old, and they look at people and it's like, oh my God, your building doesn't reuse all the grey. Where's the water go? What do you mean it just goes down
So
the
we're
drain?
going to force the market to evolve, because if we do it and we're successful, then someone else does it and they're successful. Next thing you know, you're going to have to follow the herd.
And that's what we want. It's a movement that happens then, which is just so fantastic for the whole world, basically.
Totally.
So, and then we think great designers as well. We love, everyone else pushing the envelope. That's why we love the awards nights. It's not, it's nice to get accolades by your industry peers, but it's really nice that the whole industry is striving to get better and better and better. And I think that's what's fantastic. Some of our great friends like, Cav and what have you, he does incredible things and he pushes us and we push him, and that's
the friendly rivalry. But it's great. Yeah,
and it is. And that's how you get better and better and better as collectives,
Yeah. Well, being successful, wealth, building buildings, it's not a solo game. Part of the podcast, the Wealth Faculty, is like a play on words, where faculty is like your physical faculties you bring to life, your physical, mental, emotional faculties, your capability to be at the top of your game. You touched on it there before, rising in the morning early. Give us a little bit of insight to how you guys stay on top. Is there a bit of a routine? Is there something? I mean, you're talking about getting up early. Maybe Mike kick off here, and are you still fighting
up
fit?
Early as well.
are you a night owl?
I started running a little bit recently too, so really decided. He got me into it, so I thought
I got him into it, and then I did a few marathons, and Mike said, "Oh, well, I'll do an ultra marathon, and I'll do 120 kilometres, not 42 kilometres."
And that's a window into our competitiveness. He's like, "Oh, it's cute. You can do 42. I'll just, I'll do 115."
So you just did that recently?
I did that 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did you prepare for that? Like,
just like everything. Just, how do you eat a whale one bite at a time?
Yeah.
So got a coach who, was a lot smarter than me. He's done it a lot of times before. He set me out a program over a year, and I just followed it. Like, I didn't need to reinvent the wheel or the pathway. He's just like, this is where you're at. You want to finish here.
Yeah.
This is what we have to do in the middle. So I just, did his prescribed training over a year, and before I knew it, I was able to do it. So
now I've got to do 150
kilometres. I love the little casual. Yeah, I just did an ultra.
Well, I have a twin brother, funnily enough, and he was going to do the same race as me, but just to let me know that he still got me covered, he did a 100-mile version, so he did 160K. In the same race, just to remind me that he's still got me covered in that area.
That's fantastic.
But it's the same thing with all different areas. It's like, whether you've got, work or fitness or family or whatever it might be. Yeah. It's just, it's actually a pretty simple process. Find someone who's very successful at that, see what they've done, and just kind of copy it and tweak it to you. If you want to be successful in business, find people that have done it before. If you want to be wealthy, find people who are already wealthy that can help you along. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. You just have to keep things pretty simple and then do it over a very long period of time. I mentioned this to Tim just the other day. I was at dinner last week, and there was a couple that sat down next to us, and it was Noel Whittaker. And he wrote the first book I ever read when I was in year 11, Getting It Together by Noel Whittaker, Australia's sort of foremost financial planner.
Money book, yeah.
And I sort of went over and said hi to him, and, said, you changed, you made a big impression on a young guy. And his whole thing was just compound interest over a very long period of time. Very simple, buy property, buy shares. And if you're going to buy anything, you've got to look at it for a minimum of a 10-year horizon. And it's just, looking at everything with a long-term approach.
Fantastic. Well, then tell me, ultra marathon, probably ultra in business, you get to that point where your body's saying, no more, but how do you prepare for that? Where do you go? What do you dig out at those points in time?
I hit it at 72Ks.
72Ks.
Now, here's the thing.
I had it with a friend I was racing in this one the other week. It's sort of, you underestimate how deep you can actually dig sometimes. And we speak about it like in long distance running, for example. It's like, okay, you almost trick yourself and you go, okay, just get to the next power pole, and then, okay, get to the next power pole and then and you eventually sort of work your way through it. And I think persistence is something in business that is massively underrated. And I think with a lot of young people as well, it's too easy to try and think you can get rich quick or think you can make it in business or think you can build a great company. But it's persistence. It's the key to success. Every single day, getting it together, and whether that's getting up at 4:30 and training and having a healthy body and a healthy mind and being focused at what you're doing, but you've got to stay persistent with where you're heading. I think it's a really key trait that we've really tried to, drill into the whole ARIA team.
Yeah.
And we have these things, Jason, like what we talk about, creating buildings we're proud of and leaving the legacy and loving our customers we talk about a lot as well through ARIA Living. They're things that every single month we have ARIA innovation sessions in that room next door, and it's the first thing I open every single one of them with. Tell me, Jason, how have you loved our customer this month? Like, what have we done?
Yeah.
How have we gone over and above for one of your tenants or an owner or whatever it might be? What decisions have we made we're going to be proud of in 20, 30 years? Like, celebrate those things and continue to just reiterate the key things that are important to ARIA. And that's what we do time and time again. And I think eventually you start to get there on a long-term basis.
Yeah, it's the marathon, it's the ultra.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Business is an ultra.
Yeah.
Investing is an ultra.
It is.
Like the amount of times you look at that Sydney market and people that bought in 2004 and sold in 2015, they saw no growth. 11 years, no growth in real terms, really. Even if you take away inflation, no growth. And then from 2015 to 2017, everything doubled.
Yeah.
So it was, like people think it doubled in 2 years, but it didn't. It doubled in 13 years. It just happened in those final 2 years, but it was building for 11.
Yeah.
And that's where we sort of see Brisbane now. Like, Brisbane has not had any love and any growth for a decade, and it has to happen at some stage. We don't know when, but it has to at some stage.
It's got to have its turn. Yeah, it's got to have its turn.
So it's about playing the long game and being persistent with whatever your strategy is in life.
Let you go.
Yeah.
What happened at 72?
Oh, just, everything sucks. Everything hurt. You were just absolutely done. But I had the goal I wanted to finish.
Yeah.
But then you broke it down to bite-sized pieces, and it was just get to the next checkpoint. So it's just, I figured I had like 7Ks to go to the checkpoint. Just trick yourself, just get there and then reevaluate. And then you get there, you restock up, you have something to eat or drink, and you get a little bit more energy. And then it's like, all right, get to the next checkpoint. So once again, the big picture goal, but in bite-sized pieces.
Breaking it down.
And then, you just got to realize that you've always got so much more in you than you realize.
Yeah.
And, I just remember my brother and my coach basically saying that when you're absolutely effed, you're only at 40%.
Yeah.
So I just kept on telling myself, when I'm really effed, so maybe I'm at that 40%. When am I going to start feeling better?
Yeah.
And you do end up, as long as you know the why. There's also a why. Why do you want to finish it?
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of something?
It's important. Well, it's fantastic in that way because, like you said, a successful anything, successful marriage, successful friendship, successful partnership, successful business, it's an ultra, right? It's not a short time, it's a long time, and
I think it takes a lot of work as well, doesn't it, to have those. And we were talking even before this and before we came on, it was like, I think that brutal honesty piece is something that Mike and I have always had, where if anyone's getting carried away or anyone's letting, whatever it might be, an ego get in the way, or it's just being at all times brutally honest with each other.
Yeah.
And I think, relationships are the same with partners. You've got to be honest with each other or there's going to be a breakdown at some stage.
Yeah. So, changing gears into, those who've assisted you guys along the way, the podcast, The Wealth Faculty, like I said, is about your personal ones, but also the faculty of advisors that you have that you go to or you're surrounded by or you seek out when, you need better advice. Maybe for each of you, I'll start with you, Mike. Like, who would be the top 5 in your faculty that are your go-to people? Like, either they can be a professional or you can name them. It doesn't have to, you don't have to put people's names out if you don't feel like you want to. But, 5 or 6 people, professions that you need in a ARIA best of the best sense after, yourself and Tim.
So
and
ARIA context or personal context?
In an ARIA context for this question, and you can do a personal context as well. But, Who do you go to get some advice, support to go the distance in this thing?
Well, in ARIA, because we're a developer, so we do, residential developments, public realm, and sort of manage all our things. You look at the people that are the best in those sort of areas. So, there's obviously, Tim's father was just a great sort of mentor to me as well. So he's just an amazing sounding board because he's just, he's got experience and that's really amazing. There's also one or two people that are sort of pretty key in sort of architecture and also construction that we go to. And then, I kind of actually go to Tim a lot. He's just, there's not too many people out there that just have that sort of, we call him the golden touch, the golden boy over here. But he just has I don't know, he has an ability. He's really
playing it up.
No, I'm being serious in a little way. He's got an amazing sort of long-term vision for things. Like, I won't see something, I'll see something completely different than what Tim does. And so I sort of, looked at Tim a lot. But there's some people that are very successful out there that you can go to and have a sounding board. But without naming them, you touch on a very good point. They say you're the sum total of your 5 closest friends and the 5 closest people you hang out with.
Yep.
You're also the sum total of the people within your group that you take advice from, whether it be business or personal.
Yes.
So you've got to be very careful, who you bounce things off and you get a sounding board from, because, if you pick the wrong people, it can sometimes be a real challenge. So, in a personal life, I know those 5 people, and Tim's 100% one of those. And I'm very careful. They're all amazing people. They're all my closest friends. But, I know that if I'm struggling, they're there. And I'm also the sum total of the 5 of them. A lot of people have got someone who's a bit of a goose, or they got maybe more than that, and they wonder why, they think you're acting the wrong way. It's typically the people you associate with.
Yeah, the circle of influence, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What about you, mate? Like, is there?
I think in work there's been some really key ones for me, like turning point people that I've really looked up to, and maybe not ones that I've always been able to speak to. As Mike touched on, obviously my old man's been amazing for me, and just we'd a phone call away or a catch up away at any stage, which has been huge. There was another guy that I worked with as well, a guy called Robert, who was really important to me and helped, mentor and shape a lot of my thinking. But, in a bigger sense, I think we've drawn so much off what Steve Jobs did with Apple. Like, we look at that business and how he came back as CEO and he took it from 30 or 40 odd product lines down to 4. And he said, these are the 4 things we want to create and we want to be the best in the world at and focus on. And the way they went about doing that was something that was so inspiring, I think, from a business point of view. Apple were on their knees. Apple were gone. They were dead and buried. That was only in 2000. Well, that was yesterday, really. What he did with that company in 10 to 15 years was incredible. With that fanatical focus and discipline, I think what, we mentioned earlier with what Elon's done with Tesla again, I don't even know the numbers on Tesla and how the business works and all of that.
Yeah.
That's obviously become an incredibly valuable business. But what he has done from a sustainability point of view, he set up Solar City, putting solar throughout the United States. And obviously now he's set up Tesla with the electric car company. And I just think there's a big part of, he's something that when he passes in a lot of years' time, however old he is, 60 years' time or whatever it might be, I think he'll look back on his legacy as something that he played a big part in changing the way the world functioned at a really important point in time. And even guys like, we are just in awe of guys like David Attenborough that have been these champions all around the world for what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So you've sort of got great business guys, you've got great environmental guys, you've got, people that fuse both those things, because without a financial piece to that environmental piece as well, like Tesla's been able to do, the model can't continue to prosper long term. So there's been some amazing people we look up to in that space. Jim Collins as well, for all the work he did. They've just been really, really, really key people, I think, to me and the way I've thought about the way I live and operate. Not on a personal sense. Some of them have had a really different personal life, and there's different people I look up to from a personal sense.
But you're sort of quarantined for a bit.
From a business and I think they've done incredible things.
Yeah. And, the family inspiration, that sort of that value weaves throughout sort of everything you guys do, exude in your building, exude in your friendship, in your relationships, in your own families as well.
I think we're also really lucky. We both had very similar family environments growing up. Like, I'm super close with my family. My dad's, one of my best friends and massive mentors, and, mum and dad are still together, and my brother and sister. So I think we had a very similar family environment to Tim and his family.
Yeah.
And so, we share a lot of the same values and so it makes it really easy.
That's nice. Well, it's kind of what I was going to ask about, going the distance as business partners, but really that's the answer, really. Common values and some honesty to be able to have those conversations together. I'm expecting to see you guys business partners in the next 30, 40, 50 years. Same with me and Sam. I think I've been pretty lucky with Sam. He's a really easygoing guy, but when he gets his mind on something, he goes for it, and he can be quite inspirational in his space, which I love too. And I guarantee that you guys are getting that kind of energy from each other too.
I think another thing with both of us and with Brent as well, and with all of the kind of leadership team at ARIA, which there's sort of 7 of us there, but it's this feeling of really never, ever, ever letting each other down either. It's kind of like we're at, war for different terms, all together, and we all have each other's back. We would all sort of take a bullet for each other, and we would all never, ever, ever let each other down.
Yeah.
So when we commit to, hey, this is what we want to do, if we want to really, really love our customers and we really want to create things we're proud of, like, we cannot let each other down. And I think that culture runs through the entire ARIA organisation.
Yeah, inspirational. Well, I've got one final question for you guys, and I'll get Mike to answer first, and then you can have the last word, Tim. Is that how it works, or is it usually the other way?
He usually gets the first word and the last word, and he might let me sneak in a sentence. I'm usually just here to look good, but on a
Can you believe that?
On a podcast, that'd be really hard to do. So I am talking more than normal.
Part of the wealth faculty is there's a fundamental question, like, what is the true meaning of wealth to you? What is your definition of that?
Just having freedom and the options to sort of, live the life the way you want to. It's just, having flexibility and, not being told what to do or when to wake up or when to turn up to work. So I think it's just having options and flexibility. That's really it.
Nice.
Oh, for me, it's it's happiness in like life and family, I think. It's wealth. It's so hard to imagine as you're growing and you're building, but money just does not buy happiness at all.
Yeah,
and anyone that thinks it does, I'm telling you right now on this podcast, there's no way it changes your level of happiness one bit. So it is really about making sure that you've got those building blocks with your wife, with your kids, with your circle of friends, as Mike mentioned earlier. Like, that's where real happiness is. So don't think for a second. I think there's always this mystique that money's going to change and make people happier than what they are. It's got to start right now, and you've got to build your happiness right now.
Tim, Mike, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Jace.
Thanks, Jace.
Good on you.
Hey, thanks for joining us on The Wealth Faculty. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. Where all good podcasts are found, you can find us there. And if you want to watch it, you can subscribe on YouTube, Positive Mentor TV. And until the next episode, take care. Bye for now.